So for people who want to, ever since the pandemic kind of hit us, right? Everybody's doing podcasts, everybody's doing a lot of these things. But what is it that really, what is it that you think are the non-negotiable cornerstones of building an AppSec community in today's context? What is it that you think is that secret sauce in terms of really keeping people engaged? Because you can bring people in, but then keeping them engaged is another thing, right? So what do you think are people wanting to really kind of have a bite of?
I'm not sure if it's specific to AppSec, but I've definitely noticed a difference when we started being consistent. I keep repeating that because that really was the game changer, right? Not going live a week and not hearing from us for a month and a half and then coming back. So the fact that we had a schedule, it was almost every Sunday at 1 p.m., sometimes at 5:30, but we started back at 1 p.m. Eastern time. So it was a habit basically that people had to come and watch the show. So I think that was the main game changer. And other than that, I would say that we had fun, like we're all interested in these topics. We're genuinely interested. And whether there were 5 people watching or 25 or 100 or 1,000 views, I enjoyed this time spent with Nikki and Tanya at the time as well, and the guest talking about these topics. So a genuine interest, the fact that it's a Sunday, understanding that it shouldn't feel like a classroom, or it shouldn't feel like a lecture, and we're here to have fun, to learn something new, but not taking ourselves too seriously, but also not taking ourselves seriously, but doing serious work, like just how we took care of the podcast and being consistent with it. Those are the things that I think makes a difference. And about the pandemic, sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah,
sorry.
No, finish up.
I was just going to say about the pandemic, I think it was an advantage for us, the fact that like we were already doing what everybody's starting to do now. I think a few communities stopped and like, what are we going to do? We can't meet anymore. And we just kept going, and we just kept going, see them catch up, kind of understanding, if everybody's doing that, we're going to have to switch it up. And that's where we started inviting more guests, more co-hosts, just to make sure that we were not just another podcast with guests with the slides.
So ironically, it's funny that the problem that we had with the pandemic, though, is that you suddenly had a lot of speakers who wanted to speak. And now it was about having to really weed off the ones that were not interesting, right? How do you say no to a lot of them? Because now everybody's at home and they're like, I can speak, I can present. Like, then as community owners, you need to then kind of really choose, right? So I was just curious in terms of what your selection criteria are.
Yeah, but not only that, I felt like the same speakers the best speakers were going to this different communities, and the same talk was in every community's YouTube channel. So, something was off about that. Something needed to change. So go ahead.
Yeah, and I think another thing that we try to aim for is like, listen, we all like understand that there's a lot of different tools and things you can choose from in the cybersecurity space. There's point solutions, there's new products, there's new open source products. There's just a variety of things out there. And I think that we learned really quickly that our audience, not even necessarily our audience, I think this is definitely driven by our audience, but I think people in the security space, it's really great to watch a tool or like learn how a tool functions like in a really short amount of time. So if you're hearing all about a certain type of, tool that's out there or a security product that's out there, like what does it actually do? You can go to the website, you could get through the marketing and then try to drill into actually what it does. But it's really cool to just like watch, real people in the real world trying to actually do this thing or implement this thing and figure it out. And you could actually learn a lot and just sort of like narrow down like how you reason that what that tool is. So I think we definitely focus on that learning outcome objective here, which is like at the end of this hour, we hope that you understand this thing incrementally better. And I think we're really deeply committed to like making sure that that happens, but in a fun way. And, listen, it doesn't always go to plan, but we try to keep it running along that path as much as possible, like really driven on like, we want you to learn something. And like,
Right.
It's cool to be a beginner, be intermediate, be super advanced, whatever you want, like whoever you are. But we really want you to just kind of like learn like, hey, what is this thing? Like I heard all about like infrastructure as code checking tools. Like what are these things? How do they work? Like, I don't know. Like, so that's sort of like where we like to focus on.
Something I haven't. Oh, sorry.
Yeah,
but something I haven't mentioned a lot and talked to Nikki is also the credibility. I think Nikki adds a lot to that, to the podcast as a practitioner, as somebody extremely technical, like the conversation that she has with her guests, right? I find that it brings the conversation elsewhere. And I can even see like when she asks a question to her guests, like their eyes light up because they're like, oh, she gets it. right. And having that credibility.
That's very kind, but...
No, it's true. Yeah. Like you can
We're
tell.
all learners
like, even,
here, but yeah.
No, yeah. Absolutely. Like, and they're every speakers, but when they and it's not, you know, comparing, but it's just you know, you ask a question to speaker, they're trying to teach you, but then Nikki comes in with a question and they're like, oh, I'm talking to a peer. Like I'm not just trying to teach someone that doesn't know anything about my field. She actually gets what we're talking about. And I think we get a range of different audience because of that, the beginners, but also more advanced users and practitioners, because they're like, oh, it's not just about the AppSec 101. We're actually discussing problems that happen in real life. And that definitely, I need to credit Nikki for that.
Yeah, and I completely agree, because that's one of the things that I've loved about the DevSlop is, and that's pretty much something that we kind of closely relate to, is it's relevant and it's practical hands-on, right? It's not just people wheeling off theory. There's always something quantifiable that you kind of get at the end of that episode. And that's really something that's quite interesting. I do have some serious questions after this, but before that, I wanted to kind of understand who does your media package. I'm a big fan of the posts that you do on Twitter and things like that. So who comes up with that? What's going on there?
Okay. You want our secrets? Okay. No, I have a great relationship with a graphic designer, and I come up with concept. I give him like inspiration, but I can't take credit, but because he reads my mind. I pretty much tell him something and he comes up with different topics.
Those are great. Those you never miss a DevSlop episode on your timeline. You know what I mean? It always is. There's something about it that you just can't watch above, right? Yeah. You always kind of grabs your attention, and it's tastefully done. It's fun. It's vibrant. I think it also kind of really kind of resonates that whole perception of what DevSlop is. So I think huge shout out to the freelancer, whoever it is, unnamed. So we'll keep him as the unnamed one. We don't want others kind of biting him off.
No, but I'll add that branding was very important to the project, right? Like it's part of the consistency that I'm talking about, right? That our post on a timeline is recognizable. And at first, I think that was what grabbed attention more than content. And it's like, oh, this fun project was there's a bunch of ladies talking about AppSec. That's fun. But suddenly people started listening and it became more than that. But I think a lot of it started with branding and it was a way to show that we were taking this project seriously, I think, as well.
Absolutely. Cool.